All right, bang. Today is Thursday. It is June 20th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. Before we get going here, I want to talk to you guys about a cool opportunity ChevyDriveChicago.com has available for you. They're going to give you a chance to sail Chicago. So obviously we know that Chevy drives Chicago, but this summer Chevy also sails Chicago. Your local Chevy dealers want to give you and your friends a chance to win a boat charter on Lake Michigan this summer, partnered with Tailgate the Lake. Great thing to do here is obviously hop on Lake Michigan, go to the playpen, have a good time, and there's really no reason why you shouldn't enter. And while you're there, obviously check out their fleet. They got the Silverado and the Colorado for the pickup truck options. They got the Equinox, which I'm a big fan of. They got the captain seats, the Blazer. That's what Chief has. And listen, you guys know Chevy. It's as reliable as they come. Isn't that right?
Chevys are great.
Chevys are great. So head to ChevyDriveChicago.com to enter to win. Shop around for a new SUV and locate your local Chevy dealer today. It's that simple. Go on there, check out the fleet, and enter a chance to win. Done deal. All right, so as you heard there in the ad read, my guest today is Barstool New York content employee Chris Klemmer. Klemmer, welcome in.
Thank you. This is very exciting.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to have you in, man. We talked a little bit a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I'd love to sit down and chop it up and hear more about you.
Yeah. I feel like I'm older, I think, than a lot of other Barstool employees, so like you have kind of this like whole other life that I had that some of the people. It's funny, like Marty or Rhea or like some of these people or Robbie, they've been with Barstool like their entire adult lives. Yep. And that's like interesting to kind of hear their perspective. But then I have a perspective, I think, of someone who worked in like regular job for 20 years.
Totally. Yeah. So how old are you?
44.
44. And let's go to the beginning. Where are you from exactly?
I was born in New York City. I had kind of an odd childhood. My father was a stagehand at Radio City Music Hall.
Oh, no shit.
So I got to play like in the sets. Like if you ever gone to the Christmas show there, the sets are quite huge. Got to play on those. My dad would bring me to work a ton, especially during like Christmas break or like summer break. I would go with him. And then he ended up going from Radio City to Broadway. So then I got to go to a bunch of like Broadway. I got to be backstage for a bunch of Broadway shows and kind of talk to those actors. And that was really interesting perspective because like they're doing the same job every day, but they would constantly try to find ways to make it better. Mm-hmm. It's like that's an interesting way to kind of approach your craft. But it was a really cool experience. I have a lot of really fond memories of like going into Manhattan in the 80s with my dad, going to work with him. But yeah, that was great. I had kind of a weird. I could read very early, so I could read when I was 2.
Wow. And
that was the only thing I could do well though. Like my motor skills are atrocious. Like I wasn't very good at math, wasn't very good at science. My social skills were really poor. I was an only child until I was almost 8 years old. So I didn't have any like siblings that I could kind of learn from. My parents were it was me and adults all the time. Mm-hmm. And when I was in kindergarten, they wanted to put me in 3rd grade. They wanted me to go from basically skip kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, from right into 3rd grade.
Boy, genius.
But not really. All I could do was read really well. I had no other skills. And my mom was like, he's going to get eaten alive. Like, that can't happen. So they put me in private school until 4th grade. And then at that point, then everyone had caught up. And now everyone knows how to read. So it's not much of a skill.
Not a big deal.
No. But it was really... It was a neat thing to have when I was like 2 or 3 and 4, I guess, but it didn't really like help me in my life.
Mm-hmm. Once everybody sped up.
Yeah, and it's like everyone could read, and it's like, all right, big deal.
By that time, did you gain the motor skills that you were looking for?
Not really.
No.
Got a little bit of social, I guess.
Yeah.
But not really. But my time in New York was really nice. I lived in Long Island until I was 9, and my dad didn't want to be a stagehand anymore. He wanted to have like a quieter life. He always wanted to live on a farm. So we went from Long Island, going to Manhattan all the time, having HBO, having all my friends around, to a dirt road in New Hampshire. And that was a pretty huge shift. Like I really struggled with that. And then my dad was a really strong guy. Like he was my height, but he was bigger than me, surprisingly. And he was a stagehand. So he'd always be like lifting and like pretty big guy.
Union 1?
Yeah, local 1, exactly.
Local 1,
yeah,
mm-hmm.
Exactly. And we were moving the stuff out of the moving truck when we got to New Hampshire and bringing it into the house in New Hampshire. My dad's like, I need to take 5 minutes. And my uncle and I looked at each other. My dad never took breaks. And like for the next year and a half, my dad just like slept like for an entire year and a half. Like he'd be up for like 8-10 hours a day. It's like, this is so weird. He's the hardest working guy I ever met. Now he's just lying around. And eventually he got diagnosed with cancer. Oh, shit. He was only 38. And I was in 6th grade. And like the next 4 years were awful. Like it was just terrible. Like he was just in and out of hospitals. He had a bunch of chemo. And then he did pass away when I was a sophomore in high school. And when that happened, like I finished high school and I took a couple years off. And I worked at McDonald's for 2.5 years. I didn't really have a plan. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to go to college right away. I didn't want to waste money on tuition. So I didn't really know what to do. And working at McDonald's was really helpful. I learned a lot. I learned like the value of like $1. Like I saw people who had families who were adults who had this job. Like I'm just 18. I'm living with my parents, or I'm couch surfing and just hanging out with friends. I didn't have any responsibilities. But I saw like people like have a hard time like paying the electric bill, or like trying to figure out how to make things work for Christmas for their kids. And I was like, all right, like I want to go to college. I want to have. I know I want to. I don't want to be in this position that these people are in, because I see them. They're working very hard, harder than a lot of white collar people are working. But yet they're still struggling with money. I want to make sure I'm in the best possible situation. And I ended up going to New Hampshire Tech, which isn't a great school, for sports management. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know how much. Do you know about the Monkey Boy story at all?
Yes, I did. I do. I'm familiar.
Yeah. So I worked for a minor league baseball team, helping with tickets. I was doing that in like kind of an internship capacity. And I befriended the guy that ran the tickets. And then he also was Monkey Boy, which was every game Monkey Boy would come out, do a performance. It was a big deal in New Hampshire. Like in southern New Hampshire, he was like one of the biggest celebrities in all of New Hampshire. And eventually he left the team and went independent. I went with him. So for a couple years, I traveled around the country with Monkey Boy. And
no shit.
And went all around and did that. And then the third year, he blew out his knee. He was at an arena football game. And the track was like, it was at Mohegan Sun. So it was like the same place they would have concerts. And the track was pretty loose. Had a lot of give to it, and he blew out his knee. He went to the doctor. The doctor was like, how bad was the car accident? He's like, really? No, like just, yeah, ACL, MCL, everything was fucked. And now we had all these engagements for the rest of the year. It's like, what do we do with this? And I had to be Monkey Boy for a year. and he's about 5'2". I'm 6'1". It didn't work. Like I was horrible at it, and I basically destroyed the brand.
Well, what would Monkey Boy need to do that you could?
Yeah, he did a lot of antics in the field. Like he would slap an umpire on the ass. He'd cause mischief on the field. Kind of just like ridiculous. Like do you know San Diego Chicken or like the Philly Fanatic? Yeah. Think of like those kind of antics. But he was in a monkey suit, so he could be more like physical. Like the physicality was such a huge part of the act because he's just in a monkey suit. So while the Fanatic and the Chicken are kind of stuck in these costumes that are so big, he could kind of do more physicality things, but unfortunately when you get hurt, that gets exposed really fast.
Uh-huh. So go back a little bit though. So
sure.
You're a sophomore and your dad passes away. Yeah. You're 18. You took a few years off. In the middle of that time off, you worked at McDonald's for a couple of years. What was it kind of the passing of your father that kind of put you in a mode where you're like, I don't really know what I want to do? Like, is that what kind of made you apathetic or what?
Yeah. It absolutely was. I needed a bigger break. Like I was just like, I think mentally exhausted. I didn't really realize at the time, looking back, like, all right, this is a kid that just needed like a.
Yeah.
If I went to college, I would have flunked out. Like I just wasn't prepared. My grades were horrible in high school. Like I just wasn't.
Was it hard to finish high school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ended up having to like go late. Like I had to do like adult ed classes on the side to get. I don't have a GED. I have a diploma, but I had to go like extra classes because my grades were so poor. Yeah. Like it was just like I couldn't focus on schoolwork. I didn't care about schoolwork. All I cared about was my baseball encyclopedia and my friends and like going out. I didn't want to be told I had to go to school. Like it was really, and I think I just wanted any control I could. So like when a parent's sick, when you're younger, especially when you don't have a lot of control anyway, plus when you're a teenager, you're looking for anything you control. I could control not doing my homework. As crazy as that sounds, because like, all right, that's something I choose not to do, whether it's right or wrong. I also could have chosen to do it too, but I chose not to. And like it definitely affected my grade. And I was like, I just need a break. I just need a timeout. And I went to work. I did the best I could at McDonald's, but it was also like for me, where I'm 18 living at home, it's like a pretty stress-free situation. So I kind of got my bearings and I was like, all right. And then when I turned 20, I was like, all right, I know it's time to go to work and do the jobs that I wanted to do.
So you needed about 4 years or so to kind of grieve, to kind of find yourself, and then it kind of went.
Yeah, I needed a couple years off. I used to have nightmares after my dad died. I had nightmares every week that he came back. Either he was like a zombie dad or he was not actually dead. He was just like missing. It's a dream, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But he'd always come back angry. And he'd be mad that we moved on without him, or he'd be angry with us, and he was just very upset. And then all of a sudden, one night, it stopped. Never had the dream again. Haven't had it since. But I think that was just part of the grieving process.
Wow. And where's your mom and all of this? Yeah,
my mom's still healthy.
Yeah.
Doing great. She's still in New Hampshire. She remarried, stepfather, great guy. So she's doing fine. But it was definitely like hard, obviously.
Yeah.
Because it's just when it's anytime a parent dies, it's incredibly hard. But when it's like young, it's like then you're dealing with like this isn't fair, or like how do we deal with this? Now I got these young kids because I'm, 13, 14, 15. My sister's 7, 8 years younger than me. So now, like, how do I raise these kids on my own? Things like that. I remember being like 16, like, all right, my mom dies, I'm an orphan. Like, fuck, that sucks. How do I how do we deal with that? Do I have to go with my aunt? Like, and it's like, all right, well, you don't worry about your mom getting sick because she's in her 30s, but my dad was in his 30s too. Like, so like, who's to say that's not going to happen? So you do have those, those kind of thoughts, those fears for sure. But then, like, as time goes on, you realize, all right, that was just a really weird thing that happened. And I'm 44 now. Thank God, like, knocking on wood, like, no other member of my family has really gotten sick. I felt I've lost grandparents, but they lived long, full lives. Aunts, uncles, I've been very lucky, except for my dad. Other than that, I've been far luckier now where I have friends they've lost both parents.
Yeah.
They've lost, aunts, uncles, they've lost siblings. Like, I've had friends now because, you live longer and life's not easy. Like, life kicks you in the face a lot. And I'm lucky where I've only really been kicked in the face once with the death stuff.
Yeah, but obviously a very hard blow.
Yeah.
6th grade is not.
Yeah, he died. Yeah, he got diagnosed in 6th grade, died when I was a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was a awful 4 years because, like, he was angry. He was mad. It wasn't the same dad that I knew in the 80s in New York bringing me to work. This guy was pissed off.
Mix that together with you just moved to a brand new state.
On top of that.
Like you said, you enjoyed going to Manhattan and Radio City. And
I loved the city, and I'm happy for my dad. My dad had this weird, like, kind of star-crossed life where he finally got to live in the place he always dreamed of living. Always wanted to have this farm. He didn't watch Saturday morning cartoons. He'd watch, like, the U.S. Farm Report when he was a kid. Finally got this farm, and literally moving into the house is when he got sick. Like, it's crazy.
You hear that shit all the time.
It's wild.
Right? With, like, a smoker or something like that. It's like, oh, they stopped smoking, and then boom.
Boom. It hits him. Yeah.
They retired, and boom, gone.
You hear that all the time.
All the time.
And it's like, oh, man, this guy worked his whole life.
I know, it's really
and it's like sad. All to say, think about how we all save for retirement. We all think about retirement, right? And the guy a week later, gets a horrible diagnosis. And you're like, fuck, what was all that for? That's what's said. Life. I was thinking about this the other day. It's like things are going pretty good for me right now. I feel I have an amazing job. I love my wife. I love New York City. Like, I'm really happy right now. It's like, all right, I got to make sure I try to enjoy this because I feel like we don't enjoy the good times enough. Like, we're happy for sure, but it's like when the bad times are bad, you feel them hard. It's like we got to make sure we kind of balance out. Like, all right, things are going really well right now. So, like, maybe in 3 years, God forbid something doesn't go well, I got to think, like, all right, things not only were better, but also probably will get better again too.
Mm-hmm. Once you've been through the peaks and valleys, you kind of know when, like, you're like, all right, it's not going to be this bad all the time.
It helps a lot.
Yes,
that's like having a dad die is obviously very sad, and those things are true. It does help you a lot. Helps you have perspective. It helps you, like, I got divorced a few years ago, and it was like, all right, that was awful, but it's like, all right, it did suck. You lose a year of life when you get divorced. It sucks. You really do. You lose a whole year. Just like getting over it, dealing with it, financial stuff, moving stuff, everything. It's a year gone. But it could be worse, so you're like, all right, like, I survived dad getting sick and dying. Like, I can survive this as painful as it is in the moment.
So then you're about 21. You're doing the Monkey Boy thing.
Yep. Blows out his leg.
Mm-hmm.
I fill in, destroy the brand. GMs are so angry at the performance that we gave with me as Monkey Boy. I remember one time.
What do you mean GMs?
The GMs of these minor league baseball teams are the ones that would hire you. That's how it works. Like, a GM in a
so Monkey Boy was not the mascot for, like, a specific team?
No, we went independent. So we were for the Pride. And
then I was like, what do you mean independent? So there's an independent baseball league around.
They'll pay you like $1,000, $2,000 an appearance. We did some stuff with the Northwoods League in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And there, Minnesota. Yeah. We went to the AA White Sox, Birmingham Barons. We played. I played there, actually. Wasn't very good. But I remember we did one event. It might have been Winston-Salem. And after the event, the GM, like, pointed to Chris, the real Monkey Boy. He's like, I want to talk to you in my office. And I remember sitting outside, like, in the principal's office, and he was just getting reamed out left and right. That was bait and switch. You didn't give us what you promised us. I'm gonna pay because after the game. That's when you got your check. So he reamed him out for like 15 minutes. Like, I can't believe me giving you this check. That was fucking awful. So you realize like word's gonna get out that we're not doing, and we weren't trying to screw anyone over. We were just trying to make our appearances because we were fucked either way. If you cancel your appearances, you're fucked because now you're not reliable because they already print out the promo schedules. And if you do it, anyone but Chris doing this act is going to be shitty at it. I was especially bad at it, and we were fucked. So no matter what we did, we were fucked.
So you're Monkey Boy's assistant.
Right.
What does Monkey Boy's assistant entail?
Yeah, basically anything that needs to be done when he's not in the suit. So, or when he's in the suit, excuse me. So like if he's performing, I got to make sure the sound's running right. I got to make sure the merchandise is being sold. I got to make sure that he has water to drink when he gets off. I got to help him with costume changes. Sometimes you need someone to also like, we had one bit where someone was in a banana suit and like he would tackle the banana guy. I would be the banana guy. Like you'd have other things to do to make sure that basically the show's running properly because he can't do that because he's literally dressed as a monkey.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
You were so respectfully very menial tasks. That were
yes and no. So some were super menial, getting him water. Others
Yes.
were like dealing with the GM, making sure like, hey, how is this going so far? What do you think? Is there anything you want to do?
Yeah.
Are there any VIPs here that you want me to talk to have maybe their kids here? You want us to have Monkey Boy maybe meet those people. So like it would be as high level as like the owner. You talk to the owner to the clubhouse attendant to making sure that we have towels to wipe his sweat off.
Gotcha. Okay. I just didn't know if it was a thing where like once he took the suit off, like he was Bruce Wayne and he can handle all that shit.
He typically would, but he was in the suit for the whole entirety of the game.
Yeah. Okay.
And really, honestly, like a half hour before, because it takes a while to get in. So really, once we got to the park, I was quote unquote in charge, and then he had to do his stuff, and he had to make sure it was the best show possible.
Yeah.
And then once he's out of the suit, then he's getting the paycheck, and once again, I'm back to just either driving with him or hanging out with him. He's also a good friend of mine, so it worked out.
How did you meet this guy?
He was my boss. I was his intern at the Nashua Pride. He was a ticket guy. I was a ticket intern, but he also was Monkey Boy.
And Monkey Boy just took off like wildfire.
Like wildfire, instantly. First appearance. He was so good at it.
Wow. What would he do that you couldn't do?
It's crazy. I always say it's like this. It's like I could play a guitar note, and Paul McCartney can play a guitar note. It's the same fucking note. Doesn't matter. It's better when he plays it. And I don't know why. It was an X factor. It's everything. He was more physical than I was. Part of it also is the height. Like it's funny seeing a guy who's 5'2" run around and slap a first baseman on the ass. When it's someone the same height as the first baseman, it's not funny. It's just weird.
I get that.
And it wasn't like I was getting booed. It was apathy. You would run out and it was just silence. People weren't upset. People just didn't care, which is the worst thing you want in the entertainment business. You either want people to love you or hate you. You don't want people not to care about you. That is the worst thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we got 30 times. And I remember we would finish a game and I knew right. I had seen the act so many times. I knew from like my fourth foot in the outfield, I'm like, we're fucked. Do the best I could. And we go back to a bar and I would just cry. I would like sob. Like, I'm ruining your brand. I'm ruining everything. We had dreams of what this could potentially be. You saw what the San Diego Chicken did. You saw what other mascots could do. You could make a livelihood out of this very easily. And it was all going down the drain, like with every time I stepped foot on the field. It was awful.
And how would Monkey Boy react when you'd cry?
He's a great friend, and he was like I wasn't saying it wasn't true.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like, we were good friends. We had been on the road for 3 years, so we're not going to lie to each other. And he's just like, you're doing the best you can.
Klemmer, I'm struggling here. Because listen, there's very real, there's a very real understanding of like, hey, that this was a dream, this was a real business, This was something you guys set out to do, and it's not easy to do regardless of the walk of life. But you understand how when you say it's a Monkey Boy,
it's insane.
Like in my head, I'm like, this is ridiculous.
This is ridiculous.
Yes.
But there's enough minor league baseball teams where if you have a good promotion, if you have a good act, you can make a lot of money. You can make a lot of money. I mean, the San Diego Chicken didn't leave the Padres for no reason. Like, he did it because he had all of these potential places to go lined up, and he made a cash cow out of it.
I mean, listen, there's so many fucking minor league stadiums.
And if you can get into arena football, if you can get into whatever, and obviously Monkey Boy was never going to get the same level necessarily as San Diego Chicken. But we started doing rookie ball, and by year 3, we're doing AA. We were on a good path.
Have you talked much about this on any Barstool show yet?
There will be a documentary coming out.
Really?
Yes. Hopefully, Nick, KB, and I worked on it.
We are
doing some final touches.
amazing.
Hopefully in the next couple months.
This is fascinating.
It's a wild story, and his story is even wilder because I have my element of it, but he's the guy that had his dreams literally like wiped away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay, so your monkey boy doesn't work. How do you just don't renew it the next year?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like we kind of just shook hands. We bought. I remember year one we bought a shitload of t-shirts, and I remember like the very last road trip we sold our last t-shirt, and that felt like some sort of finality.
Yeah.
Like I also was like, I got to move on. Like now I'm 23. I got to either go back to college and get my bachelor's. I only had an associate's, or do I go try to get a real job, or what do I do? And then right when that's all happening, my grandfather gets sick. So I'm like, all right, I don't have anything going on in my life. My grandfather has been very good to me. My grandmother's amazing.
What year is this?
2002, 2003.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm going to go home and just help my grandparents out. So I went home. I went to Saugus, Massachusetts, home of Jared Carrabis. That's where my mother was raised. And helped out my grandmother until my grandfather passed away. And then when that happened, I'm like, my best friend moved to Florida. He's like, just come to Florida with me. Like, we got nothing going on there. Just come live in Florida. Get out of the winter. Let's just have fun in Florida. So for a year and a half, I lived in Florida. I worked at a newspaper called the Zephyr Hills News. It was a weekly newspaper, and I sold advertising. I was making $18,000 a year, plus commissions. We had an apartment. We were paying a total of $560 a month for in rent. So it was like $280 a month in rent. And we just drank every night, my best friend and I, and it was kind of probably a waste of a year and a half in some ways, but also was like a great year and a half where just went to a bunch of Devil Ray games at the time. They were the Devil Rays. Went to the Tropiton and just had fun for a year and a half. And eventually I'm like, all right, I got to do something. Either I got to shit off the pot. Either I got to find a real career because I can't do this forever. This small, tiny newspaper that's probably this close to folding. Mm-hmm. Even by 2004, 2005. This is 2005 at this point. I'm like, all right, I know that newspapers are not the future. So what do I want to do? What am I going to do with my life here? I'm 25 years old. It's kind of a fork in the road kind of thing. So I'm like, I'm going to go back home to New Hampshire. My family's there. I'm going to kind of get my shit together and go there. Maybe I'll move to New York City. I don't know, but I'm going to restart New Hampshire. I sent out some resumes and I got hired. I got hired as a sales guy. And that's what I did for the next 15 years. I was a sales guy until 2020. I was a sales guy in Florida, but this was like a real sales job.
So you were a sales guy until Barstool.
Yeah. And I had a very normal life. I got married, got divorced, lived in New York City, lived in New Hampshire, but I was a sales guy. I did tech sales, technology sales. I would sell websites to schools. I would sell check writing software to businesses. I had about 3 or 4 jobs and that's what I did. I had a normal 9-to-5 job. I would go on trade shows where the travel I would do. I would meet with clients. I had a very traditional, normal job. And by my last job was I got married again on January 25th, 2020, right before COVID. I was working at a company selling signage to minor league baseball teams and to colleges. My biggest account was UConn. And I loved it because I got to work with baseball teams and I got to selling signage isn't glamorous, but it was fun to work with these teams. It was a good time. Then COVID happened. So my book of business went from about $2 million to 0 overnight. I got laid off. First time in my life I got laid off. And I fucking spiraled. I was like, I don't know what to do. I just got married. I don't know who I am anymore. I define myself kind of as a sales guy. That's all I had ever done. It's all I ever knew. And I didn't really know what I was going to do next. I realized quickly I didn't know if I want to stay in sales. I had this dream to do podcasting. I had done some independent podcasts. I had done improv in New York for about a decade, like improv comedy with UCB. I took their training classes. So I knew I wanted to mix comedy and podcasting. I didn't know what that meant. When I moved back to New Hampshire after my divorce in 2016, I turned on the car radio my first day at work at the signage place. And I heard Kirk Minahan. And I'm like, holy shit, what is this? Who is this guy? This guy is electric. And I became obsessed. I was going through divorce, so it was just me and my dog. And I was in my friend's basement apartment for a year. And every night I just listened to Kirk's show. Because he did mornings, but he would have the full episode on the podcast. So I'd listen to that. I'd listen to old podcast interviews he did. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. It's amazing. I used to be a Howard Stern fan. This is I feel like this is kind of like old Howard, but even better. This guy is wild. And I was just a huge fan for years. And flash forward to 2020, like I said, I got laid off. And the guy I was doing a podcast with, Matt Carano, he had a lot more, I don't want to say initiative. I would always be like reticent. Like I don't want to contact Kirk. I don't want to contact the show. Like who am I? Maybe I'll call in once in a while, but I don't even know if I'm comfortable doing that. I just didn't want to intrude. And Matt's like, I'm a good producer, talking about himself. I'm going to go and see if they need a fill-in producer one time. And he reached out. And sure enough, they said yes. So Matt went on Kirk's show. And I came up. Kirk heard me and then a couple months later had me on his show.
What was it about you and him that kind of hit it off to have you on a show? I know there's a lot of guest hosts in the world, but
yeah.
Did something happen in their relationship that you think he might have taken a liking to you to make this happen?
Yeah, it was a long process. He had me in I want to say November of 2020. I think that's right. And he didn't have me in again for 6 months. But he would talk about me on the show. And he said I was like the character in the Jackie Gleason Richard Pryor movie, The Toy. He's like, I like this guy. I want to take him out of the box, play with him, but then put him back in the box. And not like, I don't want this guy around all that much. But I do enjoy that because I have a lot of the same interests as him. Like, I love, 80s baseball. I love movies. I love, like we have the kind of same love for pop culture. We both like talking, like, I love like radio gossip, and he knew all the radio gossip. Like the same reasons I loved his show, I think vice versa would be the same reasons like he might want to play with me for a little bit once in a while. And then he had me back in again, must be summer of 21. And then from there I was on every week. He had Blind Mike was the regular sidekick twice a week. And then they used to have Blind Mike on 3 times a week, but then Kirk, I think, wanted to have a different voice on, like that third show. And then I was the guy they went with, and they had me do it for a year. Now they mix in people left and right for that third chair. But for that year, I did it. It was Blind Mike for 2 days and me for
Oh, okay. I didn't realize. I always thought it was kind of a rotating
It was me for a year. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Before the rotating, it was me. And then when I left, it was when the rotation really began.
Gotcha. So that's pretty surreal. Like you're like obsessed with this guy.
It's insane.
And then you go to a point where your friend makes this connection.
Yes.
And then you make the connection. Did your friend get a little jealous, or how did that relationship go down?
He's really supportive and good. He ended up doing more stuff with Kirk, producing stuff, and then Kirk got mad at him, and he's very principled, and he's just like, all right, I'm not going to take this shit. I don't want to deal with this guy, and he just doesn't participate in the Kirk world at all. Kirk always says he's the one guy that kind of walked away from the world.
Which is rare.
Very rare. Because Kirk, his show is addicting. It really is. It's because it's a world among itself. There's no other show like it. You can't, not like, I don't know. It's not like you're watching, a sitcom and you're like, I'm kind of done. I'm going to go watch another show. There's no show like this. Mm-hmm. So if you're interested in that show, that's why his audience is so loyal, I think, too. It's like, there's no other host, there's no other show like Kirk Minnan Show. So you get in, it has its hooks into you.
Do you still listen every day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I listen every day. He was going 4 days a week, sometimes for 3 hours a day, and I would miss an hour here or there. I always listen to at least parts of every episode, but now that he's back to 3 days a week, it's a lot easier, and I'm able to keep up with every minute.
Huh, okay. So then you get to the point where you're doing that with him, you're hosting on Thursdays or 1 day a week, whatever, and then you go full-time with Barstool.
Yeah, not quite that easy. Yeah. So okay, so this is even more bizarre. A Kirk Minihane fan, and this guy, I didn't know who this guy was until like a couple months ago he reached out. Someone I'd never heard of before. Someone who had no real imprint on the show. Sent out a fake email to Barstool saying mocked like Kirk's email address. Like, I'm not good with technology. Spoofed it, whatever the kids do to these email addresses. Created like a fake Kirk Minihane email address. Emailed all of Barstool saying, I've just hired Chris Klemmer. You might know him from the Quantum Week podcast, which was the show I did with Matt. At a Theater Near Me, which was the thing I was doing, is going to the movie theaters every day for a year. Not at all in Kirk's tone. It was very cheery. It was pretty obvious, like a fake email, but it still went to everyone. And Dan, Big Cat, called Kirk and was like, I'm so happy you're hiring Klemmer. And Kirk's like, what the fuck are you talking about? He hadn't seen this fake email. And Dan's like, the email. And then he looked at it, he says, oh, this is obviously fake. So Kirk told me that story. I'm like, Dan was happy that I got hired? So then I said a DM to Big Cat. I'm like, I'd love to work here. I was never a Stewie at all before Kirk went here. I didn't know really anything about Barstool. I always thought it was something kind of like what my friend's younger brothers would be into. Because Dave and I are only a couple years apart. So when Barstool really took off, I was already 30. So like I just kind of missed it. Even though I was in New England, it just wasn't anything that I gravitated to.
Did you dislike it?
What's that?
Did you dislike it?
I didn't know it, and I bought into some of the media what the media said about it. So I did what someone should never do. I judged something without actually
consuming it,
which is, never judge a book by its cover. And I did exactly that. Kirk went on The Dozen. And I'm like, oh, I like trivia. This is great. And who's this guy, Jeff Dio, does a movie podcast. I like movies. And that's how I kind of slowly, throughout the first year I was with Kirk, that first year is when I slowly started taking in Barstool content. So by the time I reached out to Dan, I had been a Barstool fan for a year. Certainly not like some of the other people who I'm sure people listening right now have been fans for 20 years rather, we had the 20th anniversary. But a year of like kind of knowing kind of who's who and what's what. And by that point, I knew Nick and KB. I knew like that's just, I knew the Anus podcast, and I was listening to that regularly. So I by that point had been, it took into me too. And Dan's like, I don't know, why don't you stay with Kirk right now? I don't know if there's a spot for you right now. I think you guys had just done a hiring freeze. And I'm like, oh, all right, I shot my shot, and that was that. Kirk came for the Dozen tournament 2 years ago, and they found out Barstool Idol was going to happen. And Kirk asked Dan, can Chris Klemmer be on Barstool Idol? And Dan said yes. And then I went on Barstool Idol. I finished in 8th place, got knocked off the second day, went back to my hotel room. I told my wife I'm done with content. I was teary-eyed. I'm like, I'm finished. This is done. This part of my life's over. I'm going to go get a real sales job again. And then at that very moment, Dave Portnoy texted, I like this Klemmer guy. And then we negotiated for a couple weeks. More me just begging him and me telling him all the different ideas that I thought I could do to help. And then right before July 4th, he hired me. He hired me on July... Yeah, it was right after July 4th break. He hired me he officially had paperwork from Erica that Monday, and I jumped in a bus that night, and I was here Tuesday morning.
Well, I remember that because I think you came on the DPS.
You were, yeah. I mean, you helped a lot with that. You reached out to me and was like, do you want to come on the Dave Portnoy show? And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is crazy. Absolutely. And like, if that never happens, I don't know if I'm here.
And your appearance, I remember you popped up on the screen. You had the big headphones,
giant headphones,
and everything. Yeah,
and that became a thing. Which
yes,
like I didn't obviously plan that, and that became a thing. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like it was to be. There was one moment where it was you, me, Dave, and Kirk, and I'm like, I had one of those like, I'm like, this is actually happening to me. This is like, the life is a simulation.
Yeah.
This is fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Like I'm just a sales guy. I've been a sales guy my whole life. I had a regular job. I bought a house with my wife. We have a regular life in Newmarket, New Hampshire. Like I'm a normal, like regular, always been a weird guy, but I have a regular life. And all of a sudden I'm on this show that 100,000 people were watching, whatever the thousands, hundreds, tens and tens of thousands of people are watching. And I'm talking with Dave Portnoy and Kirk Minahan. This is insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, going from being the monkey boy to that, it really paid off because this is the one place where, being kind of weird pays off.
And you can mix. I always said, like, I was doing improv for New York for 10 years. I'm like, I don't know if I like doing improv. It's fun, but like, I want to mix in comedy stuff with my own weird stuff. Also, my love for baseball mixed in with like doing shit like this, like we're doing right now. This is. All these things are things I've always wanted. I've always wanted to try to create a show or like I like the logistics of like doing Rat Race, like the logistics, putting that stuff together. Everything I'm doing now is something that I wanted to do for like my entire life, 25, 35, 40 years. And I just never knew what that vehicle was to do that. And it's insane. Like I literally every morning I wake up. And because I remember what it's like to wake up and go to a job you don't want to go to. I'm not a morning person. I remember pressing snooze so many times when I knew I had to be in a cubicle or I had to be in the office or I had this business meeting or I had this sales call that I knew wasn't going to go anywhere. This WebEx thing is so boring. I remember just feeling that dread, that existential dread or that like, I mean, I was never a miserable person, but I'm like, I don't want to do this. And to have it now be, I get to wake up and do something I want to do every day. It is unbelievable. It really is. And I always try to tell if I'm having a down day here, which, I'm getting a lot of shit online or this is happening or that's happening or whatever, or I got to run around and do this. It's like, wait a second. What am I complaining about? What the fuck am I bitching about? What am I doing? This is unbelievable. Yeah. I get to do the solitary confinement thing. That's a weird thing I wanted to do. I just wanted to go in solitary confinement and see what happened. I got to do it. Like all this, like any weird idea I have, I can at least, doesn't always work. Some people say solitary confinement didn't work. That's fine. But I get to at least try out these weird ideas. That is an unbelievable thing.
Yeah, the perspective is important there for sure.
It's incredible.
For anything. You're right. What did you do wrong in Barstool Idol that you got eliminated second day?
Kirk said I didn't. I think I was too focused on being Yak Idol. I was trying to present myself how like maybe be on the Yak. I was trying to think of like funny Yak ideas where I should have gone and presented myself more of like, here's how I can help the company. I definitely didn't do a good job with that. And then I think it was just kind of like bad luck. We had like there were a lot of talent. 5 people got hired from that show. So like being in 8th place isn't that bad. And I think like some people that didn't get, like Luke was awesome. Patrick Ewing, like he never even got a job, and I thought he would like had a lot of offers. So I think it was a pretty good crop of people. But I think I didn't do a great job presenting myself to like how I would help the company. I could have done a better job with it, which is ironic because I'm a sales guy. I think I'd be able to nail that one part, but of course not.
And then that elevator down or those stairs down on your way back to your wife's hotel or whatever, or just your
awful. Like the stairs down. We were in a hotel half block away. You know that area. Like you cross, walking up. I guess it'd be like that avenue, and I'm just walking up, and I'm just. It must have been 7th, right? I'm just like walking out. I'm like, oh my God, like it's over. Like everything, I didn't think it would be like, I think my time for Kirk's show had kind of passed. Like I feel like he was also like, I think wanted to have different voices in there. And I just like, I need to make money again. Like by now COVID's over. Like I've been unemployed for a year and a half now. Like you can't keep, I have to get a job. So it was like, yeah, that was a really rough walk. And I remember like just hugging my wife, like it's over. It's like everything this dream that I had, I got really close to it. And in some ways got it. I got to do the Kirk show for you, which is pretty wild. Mm-hmm. I was like, it's time to get back to a real job.
Yeah, no, I've been there for sure. Yeah,
I heard your story about, you've kind of had a boomerang situation here, right?
Yeah, this is similarly, where I was like, I tried. I gave it a go. It didn't work, So it's you definitely never forget that.
I think you're obviously your time off was a lot longer than mine. Like, the boomerang back, but it does, having those moments, like you said, does really make you have perspective. It helps you really appreciate like how lucky we are, like, and how like crazy life is. Like what is it like? I'm sure you get all the time people reach out to you like, how do I work at Barstool? How do I do that? And I'm always like, write about or do stuff that you're passionate about, because at the end of the day, even if nothing comes from it, you're doing something you like to do. You might as well, it's your spare time. Everyone works hard. You might as well do something fun that you want to do. Worst case scenario, you got to talk about something you love, even if only 3 people read it. That's still something you'd like to do. And like, I proved that I didn't get hired here till I was 42 years old. Like, it's like never too late necessarily. Like,
and how do you feel now that you've been in it for a while, from the sense of like, obviously you've had your public spats with Dave, about the, isolation and everything like that. Do you feel good about everything now, where everything's going for you?
I do. The first 6 months I really struggled. I had major imposter syndrome. I was so in my own head, I wasn't creating content. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was ruining this. My wife and I, we sold our house. We moved to New York. I'm like, oh my God, I ripped my family. I ripped my wife and my 2 dogs away from our parents, my sister, my nieces and nephew, to do this thing. And I should never have been hired. Like there's a mistake. And like, I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I kept being in my own head so much that I wasn't creating any ideas. I wasn't doing anything. And I honestly, probably the first 6 months here, I didn't deserve to work here. Like I wasn't creating content. I wasn't doing a good job. I was going in every day, great. But I wasn't doing, I was blogging the best I could, but then I would second guess myself with that. I just kept being in my head. And then I went on a Pink Whitney ski house with a bunch of folks here. And being around people, and like that's when I kind of made friends. Like, oh, all right, like I like these people, and I realized, oh, these people can help me create content, and I wasn't as scared to approach them. I wasn't as frightened, and that really took a huge weight off my shoulders, because the first 6 months was really rough. The stuff with Dave, I think that's all great. Like I think that's good content. Like I feel like when I'm doing those, I don't intend to fight with Dave. Ideally, we're not fighting, but if it happens, like, all right, this is content, this is good. Like the solitaire, I think that was great. Mm-hmm. Like it was also his right to pull the plug. I have zero problem with that. But it's also like got people talking, got people interested. It was a discussion point. That's our job. I think it's just kind of with the engine so big, we just if we can at all help the car move an inch forward, that's what we're supposed to do. Yep. So I think I helped move the car a couple inches that week, and like that's good. Like so that stuff doesn't bother me. It was standing still. I really struggle with. That was hard.
Yeah. How so? Get into that.
Yeah, you'd go to the office. It was tough because we didn't have a real place to live yet. We were living Airbnb in Long Island. Yeah. So I was taking like an hour long, because I didn't know what to do with the dogs. I didn't know if my wife wanted to be in the city. I was taking an hour train ride on the railroad back and forth. And I would get to the office and I'm like, I just don't belong here. What do I do here? I'm looking around. It's like, all right, Caroline has a sketch show going on. John Rich, because we were all hired together. John Rich is running the rundown and he's a top blogger. I'm trying to blog. The things I'm blogging about are pretty niche or like old man topics that maybe people don't want to read about. I tried to do like clickbait stuff. That's not working. It's not really who I am either. I didn't really have any ideas for like any sort of shows because I didn't even know who to present them to. I also didn't have any ideas because I was so in my own head. It's like, I don't belong here. What am I doing here? What have I done? What mistake have I made? I'd go home, be miserable. I'm like, I was afraid to even tweet because I was afraid if I tweeted out something, it'd be stupid. Like I just basically didn't know how to create content. I froze.
Yeah. And was this, I guess, the point where you got where you went to your wife and you told her like, hey, this is the end, you know?
Yeah.
How was that received? Was that?
She's like, absolutely, like whatever you want to do. I'm so lucky. I'm married to the most supportive person in the world. She let me take a year and a half off to focus on the podcast thing. She, you know, I want to be as available as I could for Kirk. So I worked at ASPCA, did some like volunteer work for them, the New Hampshire SPCA. I did some work for them. I helped them kind of create some like, I did some sales stuff for them as far as getting more and more funding for them, but I didn't have a real job. And I told them when I worked for them, like, I'll do some stuff for you, but I have to be available kind of all the time.
Yeah.
So I did some work for them. Like I said, mostly volunteer. And I really didn't bring in a paycheck for a year and a half. And my wife she's like, you know, this is your chance. Go for it. But it's also like, all right.
That's pretty fucking awesome.
Pretty great.
Yeah.
You know, and then she's like, I got a job at Barstool. That means we have to move. We sold our house. We bought the house with the intention of growing old there, or at least being there for a while.
Yeah.
We sold our house, moved to New York. She had been to New York. She loved New York City, but I had lived here. She had moved to New York with me. And, you know, and then we ended up finding a place. We live in Roosevelt Island. It's a tiny island between Manhattan and Queens. She loves it there. She's like, I'm happier here than I ever was in New Hampshire. But she didn't know that when she said, go for it. Like, she went in blind, and she went in because she's, like I said, incredibly supportive and, like, always has my back. And that's, in this business, that really helps because it's a weird business. Look, our jobs are barely, like, it even feels funny to call them jobs. But there are things sometimes we have to do that, like, aren't, like, sometimes we miss out on dinners because we have to stream or whatever. Like, it's not the end of the world, but like if she has plans and I have to miss them because there's a game on, that kind of sucks. But she never complains. She gets at the content business. She understands what we're doing here. She never once is like, oh, really have to do that? Like none of that shit. She's like, all right, yeah, we'll make it work. We'll put the dogs in boarding, whatever. Yeah, we'll figure it out. It's a total team player. I am. That has made the ultimate difference for me. Yeah, is having her.
That's huge. And go back to you being like not really being able to find your footing early in this first 6 months. It's kind of hard. It's a weird place where it's harder being old here than it is young because there's so many young people.
There's so many young people, right? Like I'm not, they're all going to go out and have a good time. That's how you can make friends, right? Like easy. Like I'm going to go, especially where I was in Long Island, I'm going to go back to an hour back to my wife who I hadn't seen all day. Now I'm missing out on them hanging out, them creating maybe some ideas, whatever. And I didn't have a real connection with anybody yet. You're right, because I was older. It made a huge difference because some of these kids are 20 years young. I'm old enough to be their father. And it wasn't like they were excluding me. They just, oh, Chris is going to his thing. And I wasn't trying to exclude them. I went to go back home. And it was so that's why I think being at the ski house where we're all there together and people got to know me, I got to know them, I was like, oh, I'm a lot more comfortable now. And then having that comfort, making friends here takes so much of the edge off. And then like, they might have half of an idea. I have half an idea. We put it together. Now we have an idea. Now we can go do something and we can create content. And then the more content you do, people feel comfortable putting you in content. It's kind of like a snowball effect, but you need to have that first, like, I don't know, opportunity to like make content.
Totally.
And sometimes that's hard to find. I remember I would sit at my desk. I'd be like, oh God, please. I hope Bibbs has me on Lowering the Bar. So I at least get 30 seconds of camera time. Please, like anything, like, cause I didn't have, and who was really great was Brandon Walker. He would always try hard to include me in things. He would shout my name out on the rundown when he was on it, or he'd bring me on real quick, or if something was going on with the show, he would bring me on. Or
that's good. He
always would like try to find little like opportunities for me to like shine, or opportunities for me to get my name out there, so I wouldn't just get forgotten about, and also like to make content. And I did a show with him. I did a sports movie podcast with him, and he didn't have to do that. Like it was a very niche thing, and he did it until he left for Chicago, and he did it with me to kind of, I think, to get me the reps and to help me out a lot. Brandon was a huge help for me.
What do you guys have in common? He's also an older guy.
Older guy.
Yeah, so there was probably some element there where he understood it too.
It helped. Sure. And he also, I think he's a fatherly figure where he's always looking out. Like, I mean, for people, I certainly felt in New York, like his absence in New York office is really profound. Like, he was someone that was always kind of like, oh, all right, this guy's having a rough day. I'm going to go maybe talk to him, make sure that he's doing okay. Like, where, when you're older, you can kind of see that a bit more than when you're younger. And he was always really good about that.
Yeah, but I think that's a thing here, too. I have the big belief where if someone's new, you got to throw them a bone. You got to help them out for sure.
And people here are great about that. And people did, like I said, I don't want to make it sound like people weren't throwing them. They absolutely were. A lot of times I just didn't know what to do with it sometimes either. Yeah. It was 100% on me. And I said, the second we went to the ski house and we were all in the same social thing, then it all opened up. But part of it was because, like you said, I wasn't going out socially with them. And it wasn't because of any malice or bad feelings. Everyone was always very friendly and nice to me. Yeah. It wasn't like that. It was just like, how do I fit in? And it's also on the new employee to figure out where they fit in. And that means like figuring it the fuck out.
Yeah.
Because, my contract was a year plus an option. So I had a year to figure it out or else they might not pick up my option. And that's, it was on me that I honestly wasted those 6 months, but I stood flat-footed for those 6 months and like kind of life passed me by. You got to figure it the fuck out. If I didn't figure it out soon, I would have been, why would they renew me?
Yeah. A couple things about you I wanted to get to.
Sure.
The way you eat.
Yeah.
So video got posted yesterday of you eating a Jimmy John sandwich. Mm-hmm. The bread is open.
I know.
And you're cutting it with a fork and knife.
Yeah, I prefer a fork and knife when I eat. Yeah, some sandwiches, not always, but like when it's like this was a turkey and roast beef, I like to split it up, eat it. It just makes me happy. I don't even think about it as a problem. I've been doing it for so long. I've always been a very weird eater. I have like a big reason I'm skinny is I have these weird like eating tendencies or weird things that I do with food. It's not great. It's the thing I like least about myself.
Oh, really?
Like a lot of this stuff, like it's fine. It's weird.
So this bothers you?
No, it's fine. Is what it is. But like I wish, like my sister, she's not picky eater at all. Yeah. She doesn't do this weird shit. So it's like, oh, I wish I was like that. Like I wish I liked more food. I wish I wasn't so picky with stuff like this. I wish I didn't have whatever that is. Like that. Like I'll eat and I eat like a bird. I'll snack all day, but like for me to eat a big meal, it has to be something I really like. A big steak. Like we went to BLBD.
Boulevard?
Yeah.
Yeah, great spot.
Fantastic. Like the steak, I devoured that steak. It was fantastic. But if it's something I don't really like I used to dread going to my friends' houses for like sleepovers and have to eat the home cooked meal that mom made. It's like, fuck, chances are I'm not going to like it. What if it's something inside of something? I'm not going to eat that. Or what if it's this? What if it's that? I don't like creamy sauces. I don't like sauces mixed into stuff. It's not normal. It's very weird. I hate it about myself, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And now, is that always at a young age you were this way?
Since before I can remember, I've always been a picky eater. I've always been rail thin.
Yeah.
Always been really skinny. Always been super picky. Always been like a nightmare. When I go to restaurants, like my wife knows to send me the menu before we go. Like usually now menus are so big, it's fine. But I don't eat anything from the ocean, so I'm not gonna go to a seafood restaurant unless they have some sort of thing for me to eat. Yeah, it's not great. It sucks. I hate it.
Doug, can you get into the sandwich a little bit though? So that's just how you like to do it. You don't like
sometimes
the bread,
depends on the sandwich, like a sub. So like let's say in New England they have like these roast beef sandwiches and they're small. So if it's a small sandwich like the size of like your hand, I'll just grab that and eat it. If it's a longer sandwich, typically I'll rip it apart.
Okay.
But if it's if it's a roast beef sandwich, if it's roast beef and just barbecue, I'll eat that. But if it's like something that has a whole bunch of different things like peppers, onions, like a sub, then I'll pick that apart because then I might like to eat the vegetables with the meat in a certain pattern or a certain way.
So you like to eat it separately,
or combining it like it must be a control thing. Like I'm controlling what I eat it when I eat it with.
Gotcha.
It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. I know.
So what do you mostly stick to food wise?
I'm better than I've ever been. I'm trying to eat different things and trying to be. When I was like in my 20s, I was very regimented. I could only eat basically like chicken, steak, like pasta, certain things. I was very regimented. Where now I'm trying to broaden a little bit. But like I said, I still don't eat seafood. But maybe this summer, maybe I'll try to eat like a fried something that's like kind of tastes like chicken. I'll try to dip into a little bit. Like the ocean thing, I don't eat anything from the ocean. Like, all right, why not? Like try something. So I am trying to get better. It's just a really slow process. Drives my wife crazy.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
What's is there like anything that's super unusual?
I eat pretty basic stuff. Like, but I like a lot of stuff. Like I'll eat Chinese food.
Yeah.
Like chances are, luckily I've gotten to a point where if there's something in a restaurant, if there's a type of food, I'll almost always find something I like. Like even like for a long time, like, oh, I don't know if I want to eat Indian food. Oh no, I love these kebabs. They're great. I found like shish kebabs.
Yeah.
They had there. So like, if I go to the place and actually give it a real shot and don't have a closed mind, I'll usually find something menu I'll eat.
The only thing that's complete no-fly zone is something from the ocean.
Yeah, but I'm trying. Maybe I'll eat something if it's like very similar consistency. I also don't like smells. I'm big on smells.
What's a smell that gets you?
Seafood. I don't like the smell. Oh, tuna, for instance. Tuna is the grossest. Tuna just sickens me. I think it's so disgusting.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I like tuna, but definitely the kid in class who brought the tuna packet was like, hey man, come on.
What the fuck? And like, remember, like in the office, someone microwaves it. It's like, what do we do?
Yeah.
The texture of tuna is disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, so those like the texture and smell are a big no-go for me. Like that can really freak me out. I'm a big fan of rice. I love rice. So if I have rice, I'm always happy.
Yeah, I feel you on texture. Texture. I'm kind of a picky eater too. So I get it. I mean, it's not correct. Like, obviously the sandwich thing, seeing it, people will be thrown
The sandwich
off.
thing is weird. I know. I said, I saw like a bunch of people like, this is a bit. It's like, it's really not. I wish it was.
I wish, yeah.
And I don't even think about it when I'm doing it. And usually people I'm doing it with, like I've had the same friends since junior high.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of guys here listening have. Like, so everyone's used to my shit.
Yeah.
My family uses my shit. My friends use my shit. So I forget. Like I was out with Will. Will's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Will Compton. And I'm like, "Oh, that's right. He's never eaten me before." Fuck, Here we go.
Yeah, my buddy worked with a guy who kind of was a freaky eater, as we'll call it.
Yeah.
And he preferred gyros, like the hero sandwich. People call it. I call it gyro.
Yeah.
He preferred them to be fermented for a day.
Oh.
So he'd buy one and he'd put it in his glove box for 24 hours or whatever, and he'd eat it out of the glove box.
That's very weird.
Yeah, it's a glove box gyro.
I've been trying
to.
That poor glove box would stink. Imagine that. The poor guy that buys the car next.
Yeah.
Imagine that guy.
I've been trying.
What the fuck is this guy? Who did this guy kill and put in his glove box?
I've been trying to get this guy on the podcast. Just talk about glove box gyros.
That is horrific.
Yeah, would you try glove box gyro?
No. The idea is just disturbing to me and awful. I don't even want to sit in this guy's car. So no.
And then I guess one of my last things here, because we got the dozen coming up, we got to wrap. But the Ninja Turtle tattoo.
Yeah.
It's truly one of the funniest things. Yeah. There it is. Okay, so for the people that don't know, Klemmer has a picture of the Ninja Turtle. Raphael on his calf.
Yeah.
And he got this tattoo with his buddies.
Right. We got it at our 20th high school reunion.
Okay.
Right? Yes. 97? Yes, 2017. Yes. I graduated in 97. Yes.
So the only thing about this is that there's only 3 buddies.
So this is a conflict. So there really are 4 of us. The problem was there was a falling out between the person that probably should be Leonardo and the person who is Michelangelo. And then even the Donatello guy is kind of soured a little bit. And it's like, I'm a big proponent of let's make love, not war. Let's bring Leonardo.
Let's figure it out.
Yeah. There's a fist fight in a school bus, sophomore year. Punches were thrown. People got hit in the nose. Some people felt like he's kind of acting better than. But there's been, like, we've all hung out in the last, 3 years a couple times. And it's gotten along really well. And I keep bringing up, like, let's have Mike be Leonardo. And it keeps getting denied. And I don't know.
By the other 2 turtles?
Yes.
Or by Mike?
No. Mike doesn't know about this.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Mike doesn't know. I don't think Mike even knows about the tattoos.
Why are the other 2 turtles playing coy here?
Because of the fist fight that happened in 11th grade. There's still bad blood.
Are you kidding me?
Kind of a better than attitude, like around graduation time, too, also pissed off people.
Have you, Klemmer, you want to talk about content? Get these boys on Dr. Phil or something.
I would love to have them on.
It would be insane.
Two of the guys, Michelangelo and Donatello. By the way, both the nicest guy. Like, I'm the asshole of this group. Like, these guys are the nicest guys in the world. Like, the sweetest guys in the world. They both live in New Hampshire. And then the person I want to be Leonardo lives in California, who is unaware of this entire tattoo. So it's like that. I'm usually the dick. Like, I'm the one who's usually saying kind of the asshole things. I'm the guy saying, please, like, let's make this work. And I keep getting a wall of stone in my face. I think I'm going home for Thanksgiving. I want to get the 3 of us together. I'm going to bring it up again. Like, what if we extend the olive branch here, boys?
Oh my gosh. If you If you ever need a platform to talk about this stuff, I'm available and willing to talk these guys through.
Now, we might need a moderator. One more thing
Yes.
about it too, and this is important. So when one of us dies, we have to get the turtle tattooed on us. So when if Michelangelo dies before me, I have to get Michelangelo on my leg.
Mm-hmm.
And then in theory, someone's going to be left with all four.
What if one guy doesn't do it when you die? Would you be upset? Would Dead Klemmer be mad?
Like, let's say like I'm alive, my friend's alive.
Yes.
No, that won't be a problem. My other two buddies are big tattoo guys. So I don't think that will be an issue. If anyone would chicken out of me, I have the least amount of tattoos, but I have two. I would get it.
You'd be fine. What's your other one?
Tungsten cube.
Oh.
I got this with.
Oh, nice.
Do you know about tungsten? The tungsten.
Yeah, it's like super heavy, right?
Yeah. So a bunch of us here at Barstool have we're members of a tungsten club. I'll show you the card we have. We have a membership club, and then we used to have meetings when we were in New York, and one of our meetings we all got tattoos. Let's see, my membership card.
Oh wow, this is tungsten, huh?
It's heavy, right? It's the same size as a credit card, but think how heavy it is.
This thing's heavy as shit.
So all of us, even Tommy Smokes, got his first tattoo, and we all have tungsten tattoos.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was this a prerequisite to get into the club or no?
It is now, yes.
So you have to get a tungsten tattoo?
Well, yeah, we all have one. It wasn't initially.
Who's all in it?
Rudy, Austin, Dave's guy. Austin was the one that found tungsten first, and he bought a giant cube. And then we all kind of laughed, and especially me. I was definitely laughing at him. Like, what are you doing? Wasting money? I touched the tungsten. I'm like, oh, I get it now.
Like you're actually into this. This isn't a bit?
It's not a bit. Nick, KB, yeah, we're all like pretty... We have meetings. The meetings are obviously... We have fun with the meetings. Ken Jackson, Vibs. But we take tungsten pretty seriously. We've reached out to the company that makes it, Midwest Tungsten. Yeah, tungsten's awesome. It's really cool. It's a really interesting metal. It's also incredibly strong. It's like almost impossible to destroy tungsten. Yeah, tungsten's awesome. It's a great way to... We all in a group chat. It's a good good vibes thing too. It's good with the boys.
Holy shit. Wild stuff, Klemmer.
Yeah, that's weird. So yeah, those are my two tattoos.
All right. All right, we gotta wrap up. I feel like I haven't even touched.
No, I have a lot more.
Yeah, I know. I know. And I knew we wouldn't get through all of it. But
I
there's
have other bizarre things.
there's definitely.
I skipped over divorce. We can go on for
there's
days.
there's definitely more we can get into. I mean, I could go 3 more hours on Monkey Boy.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think we're gonna have a full length documentary coming out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say where he's at now?
He's in Florida right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then obviously people could watch it to see what happened to Monkey Boy.
Yeah, the story is incredible. I said hopefully it's going to come out. We're hoping July, August.
Okay.
See? I think Rat Race 3, which was in Chicago, that's maybe coming out in July, I think.
Nice.
So we got hopefully some content over the summer for people that I'm like really excited about. Rat Race 3, by the way, incredible. I thought Rat Race 2 was awesome. The stuff I'm seeing looks even better than that. I'm really excited for this one. I think this one's going to be our funniest one yet.
Awesome. Well, go check those out whenever they drop.
Yeah, Rat Race 2 is out right now. Rat Race 1 is out, obviously, but Rat Race 3 hopefully coming out mid-July. Fingers crossed.
Klemmer, thank you, dude.
Thanks for having me. That was a blast.
Appreciate it. All right, everybody. That's it for today. That's it for this week. We'll see you all on Monday.